Gentlemen, please give a big hand to the Vice President of ICT Practice, Frost & Sullivan, Mr. Andrew Miroy.
Sawadee krap. Good morning, everybody. I'm afraid that's about the only Thai I know, so I'll be presenting in English at as slow a pace as I can to get through some very detailed material that I'll be talking about. So I've been given a very challenging task, and that is to talk a bit about some fairly detailed concepts that we use to bring together to help organizations become more innovative in what they do. And those three things are megatrends, the convergence of a variety of different industries, and taking a visionary perspective. And I know that Kevin previously talked about them. So some of the slides that I will be presenting look very complex. But what they're designed to do is give you an idea of some of the work that we are doing. And you can get more information about those slides from some of the guidebooks that we have. And what I will do is I'll pick on a few of the key issues and use them as examples of how we use these guidebooks and these techniques to help our clients become more innovative in what they do. So just to start off, to give you a kind of overview of what we at Frost look at. So we talk about the situation that the CEO of any organization is in. There are 7 orbits that the CEO has to consider, which we briefly touched upon earlier. I'm going to zoom into one of those orbits, which is the technology innovation orbit. So when you think about this sub-universe or this orbit, just within technology innovation, there is a lot that needs to be considered by C-level people within a variety of organizations, including the ones that you're in. So all of these factors need to be considered. Just moving on to the next slide. So what's worth mentioning is that a lot of people have argued that over the last maybe 40 or 50 years, there's been a bit of a slowdown in breakthrough innovation. So in the late 19th century, that's the late 1800s, the early 20th century, there were a lot of massive breakthroughs. The automotive, the aeroplane, antibiotics, electricity to factories, to homes. It was really a lot of innovation been brought about by the Industrial Revolution. And since about 1960, there hasn't been a huge amount of breakthrough innovation. So what we walk around today with, like our mobile devices and the computers we have, they're essentially advances or developments on technologies that have been around for some time. But we believe we're on the cusp of something very significant, that we are moving into a period of history where we will see a lot of innovation over the next 10 or 20 years. And the reason for this is largely down to technology and ICT. And it's because technology is not just being used for productivity purposes anymore. So the first stage of us, let's say ICT been democratized and the PC revolution, has really been very much focused on productivity improvements in traditional business activities. What we're starting to see now is this technology being embedded in a variety of different industries and engendering innovation. So for example, in the automotive industry, we're seeing the emergence of autonomous self-driving cars, or cars that are becoming more and more intelligent and are effectively like computing devices on wheels. We're starting to see this type of technology becoming embedded in the healthcare industry, enabling the healthcare industry to focus on providing care in the community rather than in hospitals, as it has been the traditional model. So innovative ways of addressing healthcare needs, technology is allowing us to do. So the good news is that today we are seeing significant growth in R&D funding. And it's because a lot of organizations recognize we're on the cusp of a new phase of very rapid innovation in the world that we live in. So I just want to reiterate the point I made a little bit earlier. This may not seem that exciting to a lot of people, the move from IPv4, version 4, to IP version 6. Now, I don't know what happened to version 5. We just jumped straight to version 6. And what this enables us to do is have an almost unlimited number of IP addresses. So prior to that, in the earlier internet model, we had a limited number of IP addresses. There was a limit to how far we could take the technology that we had. Today, with IP version 6, we can have internet-enabled devices pretty much in every machine or in every place that we can think of. We can have internet-enabled devices in household appliances, in cars, we can wear them, in medical devices. So we're seeing this incredible proliferation of connectivity across everything. So it's not just the mobile devices that we're carrying around that are acting as windows or giving us access to these resources. We can do it with many other devices, and we're just starting to see the proliferation of these devices. You may have read recently there's a bit of excitement about the potential of Apple and Google coming out with wearable technology. So adding augmented reality features to people's everyday existences, using that augmented reality as a way of improving or transforming the way certain services are provided, for example. So what we at Frost & Sullivan have done, and a lot of that thinking has been driven by this increased connectivity, and I'm not going to talk about every single one of these pieces that you can see, but what we've done is we've identified the top 50 technologies that we think have a very significant impact on our lives. Now what we've done is we've identified them around the various clusters that Frost focuses on. So we look at, obviously, a variety of different industries, so manufacturing and automation, we look at healthcare and so forth. So we've come up with the relevant areas. Now what I tend to be biased towards, my background and my area is ICT, so I very much have a bias towards what we do in the ICT area. So some of the breakthrough technologies that we've identified there that a lot of you will be familiar with, for example, is cloud computing, virtualization, LTE, the semantic web. So why are these breakthrough technologies? Why is LTE breakthrough? Well, just to give you some very, very simple examples, if you think about high-speed networks together with cloud computing, they're completely transforming the way we consume our entertainment content. We're moving to a model of music consumption whereby we just stream it. We stream it from networks. So rather than us purchasing discrete pieces of content, whether that be a movie or a piece of music, we're streaming it from the internet or from the cloud over high-speed networks. And a new model pioneered by some companies that aren't yet here in Thailand, but some of the telecoms firms in Thailand may be very interested in this model, but the new model is pioneered by companies such as Rhapsody and Spotify, who've stolen a march on Apple. They've gone beyond the iTunes model. So the model that they are pioneering is one where people pay a fee per month for access to an unlimited library of music. This is similar to the Netflix model, which is applied to consuming video content. Again, Netflix are pretty much only in the United States and a few European countries, but we expect to see this model spread across the globe pretty fast. And these are examples of very innovative ways of doing business. So the whole business model that we had for music for generations and generations of buying discrete pieces of music is just gone. Cloud computing together with high-speed networks has completely transformed that industry and engendered an incredible amount of innovation in a very, very short period of time. Now, I'm using this as one example. I could go around and talk about all of these different types of technologies, 3T integration, and so on, data storage technologies, wireless power, transmission, and give you examples. But to me, I'm very comfortable with the cloud and high-speed network one, as this is an area that I focus in. At Frost & Sullivan, we have specialists who focus in all of these areas. So again, another complex slide. What I'll try to do is just illustrate my cloud computing point using this. So something that we will be talking about later today is megatrends. We haven't yet introduced that to you, but what Frost & Sullivan has done, and a book has been written by one of our colleagues, is we've identified the key megatrends that are shaping our world today. And just to give you some examples of megatrends, one example is urbanization, the mass migration of people across the globe into urban centers, and a lot of this has been driven by activity in India and China, just huge migrations of people from rural areas into cities. Changing demographics, aging populations is another megatrend in a lot of parts of the world. So we'll talk about a whole list of them later on, but I'll just focus on one. Let's focus on demographics, the aging population, and its impact. And let's look at some of the industries that Frost & Sullivan tracks. So healthcare is a great example. And let's look at some of the innovations we talk about. Cloud computing and high-speed networks is the one I'm going to focus on here. So when you look at the megatrend of the aging population, changing demographics, you look at it in a healthcare context, and then you look at high-speed networks and cloud computing, there are all kinds of innovative possibilities that you can bring together, ways in which healthcare can be delivered cost-effectively to older people in societies. Because this aging population is going to put huge pressure on healthcare and our ability to provide healthcare to older people. It applies less here in Thailand, I have to say, but certainly in countries like Japan, a lot of Western Europe, North America, this is a major, major issue. So getting healthcare out to these people. So with mobile devices, old people can monitor their own condition, their blood pressure, for example, their blood chemistry, for example, and that data can be transmitted to a doctor who sits remotely or a specialist who sits remotely, rather than the old person having to go into a hospital or a doctor's clinic on a frequent basis. So it cuts costs and makes the service more effective. So healthcare has actually been brought into people's homes, which is pretty revolutionary. And it's something that there's a huge amount of potential for innovation in. So this is just an example to illustrate how megatrends, together with industries, together with these new innovations such as cloud computing and high-speed networks, can engender innovation. So again, just to reiterate this, to talk a little bit about some of the Frost & Sullivan focus areas. So again, my favorite area, cloud computing in the top right in green. Unfortunately, my pointer doesn't work, which makes it a bit challenging to illustrate this to you. But nevertheless, just to illustrate the point clearly, cloud computing is having a profound impact on IT, its own industry. And the profound impact it's having is it's killing the PC model of computing. So people are walking around with smartphones, tablets, and other kinds of devices that are using apps to access cloud services. So your smartphone is effectively a window to the cloud. Without cloud computing, this whole smartphone revolution and tablet revolution wouldn't be taking off. So it's having this profound effect on ICT. And then we can talk about it in all of the other various industries. But again, this is just illustrative of the work that we're doing and illustrative of ways in which we would suggest you think in order to come up with innovation in your industry. So think about megatrends, think about major innovations, think about one industry converging with another industry. And this is how we believe people can come up with innovations and innovative ideas. And we do a lot of work around this. So when you pull all of this together, as I just mentioned, you really can. When you look at emerging technologies, megatrends, and these vertical industries, you start recognizing how interlocked they are. And as Kevin said earlier, one of the big issues we're seeing today is the barriers between industries are starting to fall. A lot of new technology that's around today is making it easy, for example, for a retailer like Marks and Spencer's to become a full-scale savings bank. So we're starting to see these traditional barriers just not being respected. Look at the way Amazon and Google behave. What industry are they in? Amazon's a retailer, but it's also in the cloud computing industry. It's also in the financial services industry. Google seems to be in just about every industry we can think of. You know, primarily it makes most of its revenue from advertising. Is it an IT firm, an advertising firm? It's also in the automotive space. It's pioneered self-driving cars. Is it an automotive firm? So what Google and Amazon have effectively done is they've used huge amounts of data about customers. They've used their brands, and they've used agile, flexible cloud computing technology to just move in from one industry to another, to ambush different industries. And if you talk to some people in the financial services industry in certain parts of the world, they'll say to us, we're not worried about our competition in the financial services industry. We're worried about what Google, Amazon, and non-traditional competitors are going to do. Because we've got kind of old, inflexible technology that we're using. We're not very agile. The same with airlines. They're actually worried about the low-cost carriers because the low-cost carriers have got agile, new, usually cloud-based technology. So just to give the classic example that we love to talk about when we talk about innovation, a breakthrough innovation, self-driving cars, automobiles, they are a reality in the state of Nevada in the United States. Now, for years and years and years, Ford, Toyota, General Motors, and so on were experimenting with this and trying to design self-driving automobiles. They failed pretty miserably. Google comes in, and within a couple of years, they've successfully tested, working together with GM, but they've successfully tested self-driving automobiles, and they're now legal on the roads of Nevada. Now, you may say to yourself, well, what's the point of that? What's the point of it? But it's something that's starting to happen incrementally. There are now cars on the roads that have got sensor devices built into them that mean they cannot get too close to the car in front of them. So bit by bit, this self-driving technology is coming into the cars you and I drive. So before long, you will find that you cannot go over the speed limit. Your car will have GPS technology, sensor devices in it that will not allow it to go over the speed limit. You will not be able to go through a red light. You will not be able to get too close to the car in front of you. The number of accidents will be reduced massively. And what you'll start finding is insurance firms will say, well, hey, we're not insuring you, or it's going to be very expensive to insure you if you don't have this technology in your car. And eventually governments will mandate it. They will say, we want all the cars on the roads in our country to have all of these safety features built in. And it's not just safety, it makes traffic more manageable as well. Admittedly, it'll probably take a lot of fun out of the driving. Now, you may be asking the question, here in Thailand, how would that work when there's poor network infrastructure in remote areas? Well, quite simply, you'd switch into self-drive mode. So you will still have the option to drive the car yourself. So probably how it would work in somewhere like Thailand, in Bangkok, you will find yourself unable to do certain things with your car that you might have done before. Up country, you will drive yourself. But who knows? I mean, over time, obviously, up country, the network infrastructure will improve too. But to us, this is a classic example of the convergence of different industries. One of the 50 technical innovations, or two actually, high-speed networks and cloud computing coming together. And it's engendered innovation in what we call a white space area, a breakthrough innovation. So this is an example I'm giving you. There are many, many more we could talk through that are coming through at the moment. But the principle we're really trying to get across is that you can operate in a comfort zone. You can focus very much on what your current vertical industry is. Let's say you're in. I'll give you an example of what may have happened 10 years ago. You're in the music industry. You're EMI, or you're Blockbusters. You're in the DVD rental business 10 years ago. And you probably thought to yourself 10 years ago, okay, how do I get more DVDs to my customers? How do I get the titles fast? How do I improve my procurement processes? So you'd be thinking very much about current customer needs. How do I manage to, when a popular movie like Titanic comes out, how do I have enough copies of it to give to my customers? Would be what you would be thinking if you were a manager of Blockbuster's video. You wouldn't have for one moment thought that your whole industry would be turned upside down and destroyed by internet technology, unless, of course, you were Netflix. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Netflix, but Netflix is formerly a DVD rental firm in the United States that thought, we're being ambushed by this new technology. So what they started to do was stream videos, and they've pretty much shifted their entire model to streaming video content from the internet as opposed to providing physical DVDs to their customers. So what they did is they thought beyond that. They thought about emerging customer needs. They thought about adjacent markets. They took a visionary outlook to what their customer needs might be in the future. So they weren't just thinking in the here and now. They weren't assuming everything would stay the same. So Netflix is a classic example of a company that's operated very much in this growth zone and thought in a visionary way. So they considered innovations, they considered the convergence between different industries, and they considered megatrends. So they considered all of these things as they started changing their entire business model. So just finishing off, I've actually communicated or provided a very, very large amount of content in these slides in a very short period of time. But just the takeaways that we'd like you to go away with is we have identified 50 key technologies that we believe are reshaping our world. And we can share more information around that with you. We'd be delighted to do so. 2 of them that I focused on are cloud computing and high-speed networks. Megatrends that impact businesses, well, not just businesses, impact all of our lives and governments, have also been identified, and we will talk about those later. The convergence of megatrends with new technology and across different industries is today engendering a lot of innovation. So we're suddenly seeing an upsurge in innovation as a result of this. And I've talked about some of this convergence using companies like Google and Amazon as examples, but people talk about them all the time. More boring one might be a supermarket like Tesco's in the UK, or Marks and Spencer's that you might be more familiar with, another UK firm, who've turned themselves into full-scale savings banks. They've gone straight into the financial services industry. The traditional barriers between industries are being destroyed. If you have lots and lots of data, I mean, again, this is one of the reasons why there's so much excitement around this big data concept. If you have lots and lots of data about your customers and about your market, and you have a well-known brand, such as Google or Amazon or Apple, and you have agile, flexible technology, usually cloud-based, and you're using high-speed networks, you can move around between industries relatively easily. It becomes easier for you to do so than was ever the case in the past. And if it doesn't work and you're using cloud-based technology, you've not lost a lot. You're not making huge investments into this move in between industries. The risk associated with going into new industries is much lower today than it was before. Your biggest enemy is actually the regulator. But from a feasibility perspective, from a business perspective, from a technology perspective, it's more feasible today than ever before. And Google, I could say Amazon as well, or Apple too, is an example of a company that engendered innovation and has absolutely zero respect for the barriers between industries. They take delight in moving from one industry to another and terrifying the incumbents in those industries. So Apple's already, brought in a business model that's actually been built on by Spotify and Rhapsody that's pretty much wiped out the traditional music barons or industrial titans. And we're starting to see the same happen in media and various other ones. I would argue we're seeing the same in the airline business with the low-cost airlines, and a lot of that is associated with the kind of technology that they're using and the visionary perspective that they're taking. So on that note, we're not going to give you an exercise relating to this one. We will be doing some more this afternoon, but we do have lots of material to support the presentation that I've just given. and I'll be around for the rest of the day, and I'd be delighted to talk with any of you if you have any questions or you wish to discuss some of these ideas further. So thank you very much.
ค่ะขอบคุณคุณแอนดรูว์มิรอยมากนะคะสำหรับsession Breakthrough Technology for Business in 2007 ค่ะ